Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Brown, and today I'm going to be talking about Artists for Human Rights. In addition to that, I'm also going to relate them to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights were 30 declarations that were presented and accepted by the United Nations after World War II. These declarations are good, or in theory they were good for trying to establish good relationships between nations so that something like another world war doesn't happen, and conflicts and things like that generally don't happen between countries, but it didn't really work out the way, but we can still talk about it. And I also wanted to note that these declarations also relate slightly to our Bill of Rights that we have in the United States. Our Bill of Rights share a lot of the common themes that you see here, like freedom of religion, freedom of speech, things like that. Anyways, moving on. The first artist that I want to talk about is William Ayton. William Ayton is a contemporary artist that is he's he actually made a lot of his paintings. Like I think he had one painting for basically every single declaration of the UDHR, or Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The first one that you see here is a picture of, it looks like slaves that are tied to a totem pole. They're like tied to a pole and tied together as well. And in the background you can see the large turn crank that basically is you would see on the back of a toy or something, that basically they don't have any control unless you give them the control. And it's just a interesting way to think about how slaves were thought of by different people at the time. There's also a picture of what appears to be different shrines there in this picture. This picture in particular is related to Article 18 of the Universal Declaration, where basically everyone was given a freedom of religion. So you can kind of see that here, where some people are worshiping this yellow shrine in the middle. You can also see shrines in the background. You can see people reading something that's facing the other direction. You can also see the thing on the looks like another shrine on the ground that's in front of this other shrine. It's just I guess you can depict that as the many different forms of religion, and where people can do whatever they want. The next, this set's also by William Ayton, where basically it goes to the four different stages of war, and ultimately why this Universal Declaration of Human Rights was possibly created. Because you can see in the bottom right shows the victims after the war. You can see the spectators during the war on the side, and you can see the military at the top, and then the result of what happens at the end of the war on the top right. And you can kind of see, like, hey, maybe we don't want these things to happen. We don't want conflicts, etc., etc. So you can see why a lot of why the declaration was made. That you can see that maybe if we give this declaration to the people, maybe we can avoid this outcome. That is just depicted by these paintings shown here. Uh, Next artist I want to talk about was Gianluca Constantini. He's he's an Italian cartoonist, artist, and activist. But he basically specializes in political practice. As you can see in the next couple of pictures, the first set, the first set aren't really drawings by him, but basically he takes pictures that are he takes photographs, and he added for this set of photos, and there's more than two, but he adds text to them, and they all say, "I want to live, but not like this," which is also related to the um, the Boko Haram, which is basically a movement that's happening currently in Africa, or did happen, where there was an Islamic group that disagreed with a lot of political ideas of the Western culture, such as wearing clothes and a full-time job, and they wreaked havoc on many different African civilizations, where they would terrorize schools and children and women, and this so basically he just like uses these photos to bring awareness to it, but in they shouldn't have to go through something like that. Here are three more pictures by Jane Lupu where basically uh, there's a human rights movement in Bahrain right now where there's some pretty important people that are trying that have spoken against the government and their standards and policies and whatnot, and as a result, the government and officials have to use some very inhumane techniques in order to silence these people. The first picture shows Muhammad Hassan Jawad, where he's been arrested and put in prison for 75 years due to his speaking out, and during that process he was tortured, as you can see here, with sleep deprivation, sexual harassment, hanging, and whatnot, and as a result his whole health is worth, and he's also been thrown in prison. The second picture shows Abbas Mahala, where he was put in solitary confinement to prevent him to contact his family because of the hunger strike, and so because of his protest, he was also uh, silenced and stuck in an inhumane situation. And the last one shows a quote by Nabil Rahab, where he's against human violence and in support of a peaceful struggle for social justice and democracy and human rights. Next, we will be going over Shepard Fairey, who is more of a modern human rights artist. But two of his most iconic photos are seen here: the "Make Art Not War" photo, and also the Hope photo that he made in response to Obama running for president. A nice fun fact is that this photo was actually not made for Obama, but Obama and his administration liked it so much that they adopted it as a result. This picture is also pretty significant because it represents Aung San Suu Kyi, who is a woman who was put under house arrest for 15 years in her country of Burma. It's also pretty significant because it says the words freedom to lead at the top, which is kind of ironic because she was given an option to either be allowed to go free and basically have her freedom, but she couldn't do it inside the country, and she also couldn't keep her political status. But she chose to stay under house arrest without being able to see her husband or children or have a life with them, and instead chose to stay by her people because they needed her. Oswaldo Guzman was another contemporary artist during his time who specialized in mestizo style paintings and sculptures. But basically, these two pictures are depictions of how inhumanely people were treated during the time, where one picture shows people who got their heads cut off and such, and the other picture depicts workers that were treated inhumanely by working in Ecuador's coal mines because they were forced to living in poor conditions. They had to work where they could. In the final slide, you can see uh, pictures of pictures from Norman Rockwell during a time of civil rights movement and freedom of speech. The left two depict a African American family moving into a suburbs, it seems, and the Caucasian family, they're kind of confused because they've never seen something like this before. But as African Americans got more rights during that time, this became more and more common, or started becoming more and more common. But it was also such a foreign concept. The middle picture depicts an African American girl being escorted to class by the U.S. Marshals, and you can see the negative connotation in the background as well as the thrown tomato. It seems where she's still walking. She still has to stay strong despite the negative environment around her. And then finally on the right, you can see what appears to be a white male standing in the midst of other people, and he's the only one standing. But they're all looking at him a little confused. Some of them are looking a little inspired, but basically everyone's kind of like sitting down oppressed, where he's the only one standing around, basically symbolic of freedom of speech.